our weekly track roundup, where I go over what I felt were the worst and the best tracks of the week. Not too much to say outside of check out our Amazon and Turntable Lab associate links down there in the description if you feel like treating yourself. And before we get into the tracks, I also wanted to shout out a few cover songs that dropped this week that I like quite a bit. People kind of going crazy for this new St. Vincent rendition of Rihanna's Consideration from her last album. But for me personally, my favorite cover this week has easily been that should give you a little bit of a hint there. Probably one of my favorite songs from when I was an adolescent. Super catchy. It's stuck with me over the years. The Screaming Females doing a cover of Annie Lennox's No More I Love You as a part of a new, I guess, series of tracks from Amazon where it's just Valentine's Day themed. So be on the lookout for that. Those are both linked down there in the description, both of those tracks. Give them a shot. And let's get into the worst tracks of the week. Woo, woo, woo. Let's do it. Ahem. Ahem, 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 ahem. All right. First, NBA YoungBoy. New track from him, Love is Poison. I guess kind of keeping with the Valentine's theme. This is like pretty much everything wrong, horrible, cliche, and boring about a lot of mainstream trap right now. Like the vocals don't even really sound like anything or anybody. Auto-tune sounds awful. Beat is dime a dozen. Must have got this beat on wholesale. I'd rather listen to pretty much every Kodak Black song ever recorded because at least that has a smidge of originality to it, whereas this completely does not. Noah Cyrus' new song, total trash. Sounds like a Lorde ripoff, but like a really bad Lorde ripoff. Like, if you've ever listened to Lorde and you've thought, which I don't personally feel this way, but I know some people throw this criticism at her, like, oh, this music is so middlebrow. It's art pop, but it's not that artsy. It doesn't go that far. Well, wait until you hear this, because to me, hearing this song was kind of like, wow, maybe this is what Lorde sounds like to Lorde haters. Because this is just like a really bad Lorde ripoff, in my opinion. I just cannot even begin to describe. So we're just going to go to the next track. Another track from Laurie Anderson and the Kronos Quartet, one of my most anticipated albums of the year, and pretty much every track I've heard from it so far just sounds like a boring, overly indulgent, like super artsy metropolitan attempt at like trying to make a really significant statement on the political climate of right now, but failing miserably to communicate anything effectively. Do not care for it. This track is actually titled CNN Predicts a Monster Storm. Just to kind of give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. And finally, this new 2 Chainz song with YG and Offset. Beat is super dime a dozen. 2 Chainz doesn't even really feel like he came through on this one, kind of phoned it in. This is a part of a new EP that he just dropped, and no chemistry whatsoever from like each of these guys. Typically, I enjoy listening to these guys rap, especially YG. Like my ears perk up whenever I see a YG feature these days, and I'm really looking forward to when his next album is coming out because his last record was amazing. But now, not that my opinion has changed on him or anybody on this track, but just no chemistry here, no excitement, just really kind of nothing to having these three on this one single song, in my opinion. All right, let's go into the tracks I felt kind of meh on. Weren't bad, weren't terrible, but weren't totally blowing me away. First, Toothache, Zoom. Topaz Jones. Topaz Jones is an artist who I guess I just got turned on to by the good people over at DJ Booth. And this track, Toothache, is an amazingly funky pop rap track. I can't quite place where his influences sit on this song because I feel like they come from so many places. Like there's a little bit of a West Coast G-Funk vibe, but in some ways I feel like he's taking it even further back than that to like the earliest days of hip hop and rap music when a lot of the beats and a lot of the instrumentals were just being influenced by funk music and disco music. His flow is pretty good, a lot of charisma on the track too. But still, I'm kind of sitting back and waiting like, so is this guy going to spin this into something that has a bit more bite to it or excitement or originality, or will he merely kind of hang in this purgatory where he's just like kind of being a bit of a nostalgia act, you know what I mean? Which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing as long as, the music and the songs and the records end up being kind of quality. But I'm waiting to hear more, to sort of see if he'll get to a place where he's not so much drowning in his influences a little bit. Moving on from there, a new track from Secret Circle, which of course is a hip-hop trio featuring Lil Ugly Mane, or formerly Lil Ugly Mane, Wiki, Antoine. This track of it, titled Ounce of It, is a decent track. Instrumental's okay, kind of plain. Really, I think it kind of comes down to the lyricism of each person on the track to kind of keep things interesting. Going forward, I would like to hear the production get a little bit riskier, but as of right now, I love hearing these three on a track. I love that these three are a part of a group, and I'm hoping for something bigger as far as like a project this year, definitely. Moving on from there, new Rae Sremmurd song, Teed Up. Sort of sounds catchy, trappy, woozy, intoxicating, just like some of the duo's best music so far. Not anything entirely new from either of them, but actually like a pretty smooth, listenable, catchy track. Q-Tip, Abstract Radio. He has a new song out with Kendrick Lamar. It's titled Want You to Want. It's a little messy. It's a little all over the place. Like, it's not the best produced or the best like assembled track, but it's actually cool to hear these two on a song, and it does come together relatively well. Like, there are a lot of interesting ideas on this cut, but the production is just kind of a little clunky. It's mixed a little weirdly. You can tell they kind of like put the song together on the fly, but even with the speed I think they assembled this track, at least it sounds like it to me, I still think a lot of cool sort of concepts came through. So definitely give this song a shot, which I know a lot of hip-hop heads are for sure. But I didn't see too much talk about this track this past week, and I want to make sure everybody sees it. Also, MF Doom and Czarface, being the hip-hop duo featuring Inspectah Deck, that I've said on numerous accounts, especially in my reviews of their projects, like there's clearly an MF Doom influence going on here. They've announced a collaborative album, and they've dropped the first single from it, and that track is titled Nautical Depth. And it's not a bad track. It's not bad. I wouldn't say that there was exactly kind of the fireworks that I was hoping for, given the inclusion here of MF Doom, given obviously how huge fans Czarface are, because I feel like they take a lot of concepts and a lot of ideas from his music. But he works effectively into what they already have going. I'll say that. And still, I am pretty excited to hear what they have to offer here, because, a new album or so of MF Doom material is always good. I do like Czarface, so I'm looking forward to it. Moving on from there, Perfect Circle has a new track out titled TalkTalk. It is gothy, it's heavy, it's very sinister alternative metal. Obviously not on the proggier side of things, which I'm hoping to hear more of that once Tool drops a new record. But it's not a bad track. The visual that goes along with the music video is a little weird looking and cringy, but I still do think the tune is pretty good, and I'm pretty excited Perfect Circle are back and sound like they're doing pretty well as far as their musical output, with the singles and everything. And let's get into the tracks I thought were the best tracks this week, my favorite tracks this week. All right, Titus Andronicus, A Productive Cough. Titus Andronicus, new project on the way, from what I understand. This new song, and it's kind of like a studio session video of the track that you can check out down there in the description box. It's titled Above the Bodega, Local Business, and this is easily one of the best songs I think the band has ever put together. Very, soulful, rock music with, I don't know, it's got like a bit of a 70s kind of 80s feel to it. Definitely a Springsteen thing going on to a degree, and Patrick's vocals on this thing, typically his very raspy, cat being strangled vocal timbre can kind of be hit or miss for me. However, On this track, I feel like the type of music that he's performing on top of really kind of benefits his voice. I feel like he kind of gives this style of rock music like a bit of grit, and it really kind of puts some teeth on it. It also helps that the song is very nice. The sha-na-na-na-nas are a little stale, a little dated, but it actually works pretty well because the performance is good. There's a lot of conviction, a lot of passion there. I think the song is actually pretty quality, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Titus Andronicus are going to be offering on this new album. I mean, at least to me, it can't be worse than the last record. Cannot be worse than the last record. I know there are a lot of people who love the last record, but I did not personally. I really did not. New track from PJ Harvey and Harry Escott for this new series, this new drama titled Dark River. It is going to be the theme to the show. It's an old English folk tune titled An Acre of Land, and it's a very beautiful rendition. Harvey's vocals are amazing on this track. It just kind of reminds me just how much I would love to hear just more bare, sort of upfront folk music like this on whatever her next record is going to be. Her last album to me just kind of felt a little too washed out, a little too distant. To kind of hear her in this very upfront, naked, intimate setting was so much more pleasing for me. Moving on from there, Ought have a new track, a new single out, Desire. Every single song from their forthcoming album, in my opinion, has been amazing. And I'm just loving the kind of low-key, very somber tone of the instrumental on this track, and the weird vocalizations throughout the track. The vocals on this thing are strange, to put it bluntly, but there's still like a real moodiness and sadness, and almost like a kind of a tortured kind of vibe coming out of the weird vocal contortions being performed throughout this track. And the more I look at this album cover, the more I'm just enamored with it. Like, I know it doesn't seem like too much, but just like the weird brush strokes and the way that everything kind of like folds on top of itself, like it's very intriguing to me. I'm really looking forward to this Ought album. I think it could end up being their best project yet. And if you guys didn't know, they are kind of like a art rock post-punk band from Canada. Just kind of give you a bit more background. Their last album was one of my favorites of the year when it came out. Moving on from there, from Terrible Records, this project is titled Kraus, and the song I'm referencing here is titled Reach. New album on the way. Loving the kind of poppy, shoegazy aesthetic on this track quite a bit. The vocals aren't quite as original or memorable as I would like personally, but the production is quite nice, and again, really kind of attains that shoegaze sound very well, while very clearly sitting kind of in the modern, the very digital age. I'm kind of loving just the production and the sonic aesthetic of this thing. It's very pretty. It's very intoxicating. It's very enveloping. Just kind of loving the layering and loving the textures on this thing quite a bit. And the hook's not bad either. It's a pretty catchy tune. Moving on from there, IDK, who last year, his last album I just thought was not as great as some people were hyping it up to me. It just felt like it drowned in his influences just a bit too much. However, this new track of his over here, while the instrumental is a little bare, it's a little skeletal, it does hit hard. His voice to me is a bit more animated and a bit more memorable than it was on a lot of tracks from his last record. And the Denzel Curry thing on this thing is fucking awesome. So definitely give this new single of his a shot. Looking forward to him kind of trying to do it a lot bigger in 2018, because it seemed like while he was kind of not coming through with as much memorable material, enough that really kind of hit me as being distinct on his last project, it did seem like he had a lot of ambitions there. He was trying to make something that meant something. He was trying to say something bigger than himself. He wasn't just trying to make some dumbed down record. So it seems like he's advancing with this new single over here. So moving on from there, BlocBoy JB featuring Drake, Look Alive. So this is the music video everybody's been talking about for the past week, because Drake showed up to the music video shoot. He paid for a bunch of people's groceries. It was at a high school, so on and so forth. And so I've been waiting to hear this song because a lot of people have been talking about it. And the track's fucking awesome. Like, it is such a banger. It is so smooth. It is so low-key. The hook is amazing. Drake's contribution is great. The music video is actually very well put together. BlocBoy JB, who I've never listened to prior to this track, I don't know, he's just got a lot of swagger, a lot of charisma on the cut. Really, to me, it's kind of Drake that ends up selling the song, though, and the hook as well. But still, man, great production, great hook, great energy. It's kind of got that low key, but very, very, very like earwormy sort of trap aesthetic to it. You know, it's as much as I harp on this and I bring up that, you know, we're potentially at the peak saturation of this genre. Every once in a while, I hear a super fucking fresh track, and this is definitely one of them. This is definitely an example of that. At least to me. Maybe some of you guys are going to hear it and just think, whatever. But honestly, like, this could be one of my favorite rap singles of the year. I'll say that. And we're still in February. And this is the last one I think that we're going to be talking about here. Yes. Koosha, electronic music producer, who I've talked about before on the channel a few times. Last year, I believe he dropped like a visual project that I didn't end up reviewing, but if you did not hear about that, please do make the effort to go check that out. He has a new track out titled Earth, which is linked down there in the description box. This track, to me, is one of his more interesting pieces of music in a while, because he's really kind of going back to that strange, glitchy, very weird, otherworldly vibe that I loved hearing in his music in the first place, but I feel like he's advanced it in a bit stranger and a bit more kind of avant-garde direction. Very cool, very intense at points, and I guess very obtuse in a way. But still kind of visceral, still very gratifying instantly, because the noises just hit you very hard, very brightly, and it's just like, whoa, what is going on here? What is going on? What is happening to my brain? And guys, that is going to be it for the weekly track roundup. Remember, once again, our Amazon and our Turntable Lab associate links are down there in the description box. Hopefully you got turned on to some good stuff in this edition of the weekly track roundup. And I'll see you in the next one. See you in the next review. See you in the next video. I love you forever.